Hi everyone! In today's video, we're discussing how you can create your very own shoujo, manga, comic, or light novel. First of all, what is shoujo? Shoujo, along with shonen, josei, and seinen, are a category of manga. Shoujo specifically refers to the demographic that its stories are typically tailored towards, which in this instance is a teenage girl audience. Shoujo manga originated from shoujo shosetsu, or girls' prose novels, and the earliest shoujo manga was published in general magazines around the early 1900s. While there are certain styles that are associated with shoujo manga, these styles have changed over time. However, the audience that shoujo manga was written for has largely remained the same. Despite the fact that shoujo refers to a specific demographic, this doesn't mean that only teenage girls can enjoy it, and in fact, many people of many ages and genders enjoy shoujo manga. If you have fallen in love with shoujo stories, then you may wish to create your own. Today we will be analysing this style of storytelling and discussing how you can create your very own shoujo manga, comic, or light novel. The origins of shoujo style. When it comes to shoujo, it's important to understand where the current style of shoujo originated from. The current style of shoujo we see most frequently today began to originate in the 1970s. Before the 1970s, many shoujo manga artists were male, and the styles of shoujo manga were very similar to styles of shonen manga. However, by the 1970s, many shoujo manga artists were women, and over the decades, shoujo manga had begun to represent changing attitudes towards the women's liberation movement. These changes reflected in the emergence of the Year 24 group, a new generation of shoujo manga artists. The art style of the group, influenced by the work of Machiko Satonaka and Yukari Ichijo, came to represent new standards of art style for shoujo manga, which consisted of softer line art, beautiful faces and expressions, and lighter panels and borders. These elements are still common features of shoujo manga to this day. Shoujo is commonly described as having flowery prose with a stronger focus on the protagonist and their inner monologue. Shoujo also tends to focus on the relationships between the characters and how these relationships develop over the course of the story. Whether these relationships are friendship, family, or romance, these human connections are at the heart of shoujo stories and play a big role in the events at hand. Knowing the origins of shoujo and how these influenced modern shoujo manga and novels today, let's take a look at how we can apply these elements to creating your own shoujo story. Number 1. Your shoujo protagonist and her goals. At the heart of a shoujo story is the protagonist. The shoujo protagonist, in a way, is the character who the reader will see themselves as. However, this does not mean that the shoujo protagonist should be blank. At the opposite, the shoujo protagonist should actually be a character who can really stand well on her own and helps to drive the story. They should have a goal that is important and meaningful to them, and this goal should force them to make decisions throughout the book. Typically, the goal will be related to a character that is close to them. Whether the goal is to be with the person they love or to save the people they care about, a shoujo protagonist needs to have a goal that brings them enough determination to achieve it. Let's take a look at a few examples. Toru Honda from Fruits Basket has the goal of destroying the curse. She does this with the hope that it will free all the people in the Soma family who she cares about. Taiga Aisaka from Toradora has the goal of being with her crush Kitamura, at least at first. This goal is what causes her and Ryuji to team up to help each other with their crushes. And Haruhi from Ouran High School Host Club has the goal of being able to earn enough money to pay back her debt to the host club after breaking a really expensive vase. While these goals don't necessarily remain the same throughout the story, having a goal, at least in the beginning stages of your story, can really help to give your shoujo protagonist a purpose and meaning. Do you need a goal? Depending on the genre, there may be times when the goal is not necessarily as clear. Especially in a school setting, the goal may be a lot more ambiguous. However, even if the goal is really subtle, I still think it's important to try and find a goal, even if it may be something that is really subtle or underlying in the story. For example, Sawako in Kimi ni Toroke has the underlying goal of becoming more confident. While it may not be outright mentioned as the goal, this goal does become clear as the story progresses and Sawako makes more friends who accept her for who she is. Amu in Shuyo Chara has the underlying goal of learning to become herself, and throughout the story she learns more about how to become true to who she really is. You could say that the main goal in Lovely Complex is also about self-acceptance, since both characters have a complex about their height, but in the end they both like each other just the way they are. So when you are creating your shoujo protagonist, understand what her main goal is in the story. Whether the goal is more subtle or prominent in the story, understanding this goal can help you to provide direction for your story and help you to work more consistently towards this goal throughout the book. Number 2, the main relationship. Once you understand your shoujo protagonist, it's important to understand the main relationship. In most shoujo anime or manga, the main relationship will be romantic. However, this doesn't necessarily need to be the case, such as in series like Natsume's Book of Friends. In many cases, the main relationship will act as a foil for the shoujo protagonist. This means that the main partner or love interest character will highlight the traits that the shoujo protagonist lacks. To give an example of this, take a look at Toru and Kyo from Fruits Basket. Toru is empathetic and kind, going out of her way to care for all of the people around her. Kyo can seem abrasive on the surface and reacts in anger too quickly. By analysing these two characters, we can see that they are a foil for each other, highlighting the traits that the other character lacks. This is why this dynamic is commonly shown in a lot of shoujo anime. It doesn't always have to be so obvious though, sometimes the foil can seem a bit more subtle. For example, in Kimi ni Toroke, Sawako is quiet and is commonly left out due to the rumours of her being like a horror movie character. Kazuhaya is popular and gets along well with others. Both characters highlight and contrast each other. And then if we look at Haruhi and Tamaki in Ouran High School Host Club, Haruhi is someone who prefers to avoid drawing too much attention to herself, whereas Tamaki is someone who immediately draws the attention of everyone around him with his confidence and appearance. So when creating the main relationship in your shoujo story, consider how both characters can act as a foil for each other, highlighting and contrasting each other's unique qualities. Number 3, the main cast of characters. As well as the protagonist and the primary relationship, there will also be a wide variety of other characters that you may wish to include in your shoujo manga or novel. Some of these character types include the protagonist, the deuteragonist, which in many cases is also the love interest character, the antagonist, any conflict characters or rivals, and also friendships. Within this, you may wish to include family or mentor characters as well. In most shoujo, the antagonist will likely be a rival or a bully. In many cases, this antagonist can change throughout the story. In some instances, the antagonist may not be an actual character, but a situation or a feeling. Whatever it may be, the antagonist needs to act as an obstacle preventing your character from being able to reach their goals too easily. To give an example, in Fruits Basket, Akito is the main antagonist. However, we could also say that the curse itself is an antagonist, since it is the main obstacle in the story for many of the characters. In a shoujo manga or novel, there's usually a wide variety of conflict characters, like bullies and rivals, and also friendships as well. Keep in mind that shoujo focuses on the relationships between the characters and whether these characters are rivals, friends, or part of their family. Showing how your character interacts with other characters around them is really important. Number 4, character growth and development. Throughout a shoujo manga or novel, the development of the characters is really important. With each new character they meet and every new event they experience, they should grow and develop as a character. Typically, these relationships may come with minor obstacles that they must face. As they face these challenges, they should grow more into the character they need to be. When you begin creating your shoujo, consider 2 main focus points for your protagonist: who they are at the beginning and who they are at the end. For example, Sawako in Kimi ni Toroke starts off as being someone very quiet and timid. People tend to misunderstand her, which leads to Sawako isolating herself from others. Over the story, Sawako makes more friends and slowly comes out of her shell. Eventually, she becomes someone who can more easily express her thoughts and not be afraid of judgment. Another example is Usagi Tsukino in Sailor Moon. In the beginning, she can be a bit clumsy and silly at times, but over the story, after facing many difficult enemies, she becomes someone who can stand in her own power. This character growth should not only revolve around the protagonist. Within the main relationship in your story, both characters should also grow as characters together. Consider who both of these characters are at the beginning and who they should become by the end of your book. Number 5, shoujo story direction. Typically, shoujo manga and novels will follow a similar story direction. This story direction will typically include: Number 1, the main protagonist is introduced. At this point, you will also introduce their main goal and the main obstacle preventing them from reaching this goal. Number 2, the main protagonist will need to work with the love interest or partner in order to achieve the goal. However, this may be difficult at first, especially if they don't initially get along. Number 3. The main protagonist is able to overcome the obstacle with the help of their love interest or partner. And number 4, the main protagonist has grown through the events in the story, and their relationship with the love interest/partner has also been transformed. These tend to be the main storyline points in most shoujo manga or anime. However, this is a really loose guide and it can definitely vary between series. For more assistance in this, you may want to check out my shoujo story planner available on my website. My planner includes details on how to write each character in your shoujo manga or novel, and also a guide to writing the story from start to finish. It includes spaces to write your own notes directly into the planner. If you are interested in this worksheet, I've included a link to it in the description box down below. Number 6. Presenting shoujo through artwork. Shoujo manga and comics have a very specific art style, and understanding this art style can really help when it comes to drawing your own shoujo manga or comics. Let's analyze this art style together with a few different examples. Fruits Basket. One important element to focus on in the art style of Fruits Basket is the panel layout. Most of the panels feature diagonal lines. In many cases, the characters stand out from the borders, which draws your eyes to them. The background patterns and textures are also a common feature. In meaningful moments, there are typically sparkles in the background, whereas in darker or more serious moments, there are usually darker textures used or darker shading over the characters' faces. In romantic moments, flowers are usually a common feature and are overlaid with the artwork. The line art is very soft with light line work, sometimes with spaces in the line art. All of these qualities give the manga artwork in Fruits Basket a dreamy effect. Kami-sama Kiss. Kami-sama Kiss also follows many of these styles, which are typical in shoujo. However, one main feature I noticed is that instead of the textures being in the background, these textures tend to be overlaid on the characters themselves, usually in their hair or clothes. This creates a very mystical effect, which makes sense for the series. Diagonal panels also tend to be commonly used, and also rectangular panels that are borderless. Even though the art style is soft and light, contrast is important. Typically, the lighter elements of the page will have darker elements that help to balance it out. Kimi ni Todoke. One of the highlights of the manga pages in Kimi ni Todoke is the expressions. Every character is very expressive, and this makes for some very cute and sometimes hilarious situations. The artist also uses chibis often in order to enhance these expressions further. Kimi ni Todoke also has good contrast on the manga pages. Both Kazuhaya and Sawako have dark hair, and this helps them to stand out on lighter backgrounds. The screen tones are used to create a dreamy effect by adding sparkles over the artwork. Overall, in shoujo manga, the panels and layouts are used to help bring attention to the characters. The characters' expressions, body language, and other features are used to help highlight the inner emotions of the characters, and the framing and the paneling, and also the use of screen tones and textures are used to help emphasize this. Number 7. Presenting shoujo through writing. Much like the manga artwork, shoujo writing is very light and flowery. It uses delicate word choices to help to highlight the character's growing feelings. The story will focus more on the main relationship between the protagonist and the deuteragonist, or the love interest character. Typically, the story will be written in first person, and the character's inner monologue will be an important part to focus on. Let's take a look at an example that I wrote earlier. As summer became fall, and the leaves on the trees turned to crimson and fell, I met him. At first, he was only a blur at the edge of my vision. On that cold morning, he stood there at the base of that tree and caught a falling leaf in his palm. When he looked up and his gaze fell on me, I found myself unable to look away. For as I stared at him, I noticed that those eyes were the exact same color as the crimson leaf he held. As you write, try to imagine yourself in the role of your shoujo protagonist, and this can really help you to imagine yourself in your character's shoes as you write their story. Similes, which are when you compare one thing to something different, are also commonly used. For example, if you were to say that someone was as graceful as a butterfly, that would be a simile. In this case, I used the crimson leaf as a comparison with the male character's eyes. While this shouldn't be used all the time, using it sparingly can help to make certain scenes and features of your characters feel more memorable. I recommend reading light novels that are written for a shoujo audience and analysing how the writer uses certain word choices in order to convey certain feelings or underlying emotions throughout the text. Shoujo manga and anime are some of my favourites. The first manga I ever read Sailor Moon was my first introduction to shoujo, and it has remained in my heart ever since. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope today's video helped you to begin creating your very own shoujo manga, comic, or light novel. Let us know in the comment section down below what kind of shoujo stories you're telling, because I would love to hear your thoughts, and I'm sure others would love to hear your thoughts too. Check out my original graphic novel, Having Faith. While I wouldn't say that Having Faith is necessarily a shoujo, I take a lot of inspiration from shoujo, and I think if you like other shoujo stories, this story may interest you as well. Sometimes imaginary friends don't want to be imaginary. Having Faith is a psychological thriller graphic novel created by me, Midnight Cross, which focuses on what it means to grow up, make friends, and fall in love, all while trying to overcome the fears we create in our own minds. If you're interested, you can read it on Webtoons, and the paperback and ebook version is available in a wide variety of retailers, libraries, and bookstores. If you are interested and enjoy the series, please consider purchasing a copy. It really helps to support me and my channel, and I would really appreciate your support. Again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!